What's up, YouTube? I am the Vanilla Nerd, and today I am going to be reviewing the Muppet Christmas Carol, which is exciting. This is my personal favorite Christmas movie, so I'm excited to kind of gush about it, talk about all the things I like and stuff, and highlight some of the stuff I enjoy about the film. But before I get into it, I do want to give a quick spoiler warning for the movie. I mean, I know the film itself has been out for over 30 years, and the book it's based off of, The Christmas Carol, has been out for over 175 years. So yeah, kind of get with the program if you haven't seen it or, read it or anything like that. But I do want to give that spoiler warning because, what this film adds to it, the humor and the jokes and some of the funny things and stuff is worth seeing and not being spoiled by me on the internet. So yeah, definitely go and watch it if you haven't seen it already. It's a great film. You're going to have a good time. But yeah, spoilers for The Muppet Christmas Carol moving forward. So the first thing I want to talk about when it comes to the Muppet Christmas Carol is the pacing and the plot, because I think it's absolutely excellent. Every time this movie gets a little slow, they pick it right back up with a fun song. Every time the movie gets a little serious or dark, they have a funny bit or something entertaining for you to laugh at, to smile at, and it's nice. And this isn't to say that the humor takes away from the seriousness. No. Unlike a lot of modern movies of 2025, this movie allows the serious and dark moments time to breathe. They are dark, that you can internalize them. You realize just how sad and miserable Scrooge's life is, or the poverty of London, or whatever. But then you get the funny bits to kind of give you that cathartic, hey, it's okay, it is dark, but there can still be hope, there's still humor, and it just works super duper well. And I really appreciate that about the Muppet Christmas Carol, because by the end of the film, you don't realize just how sad you got and just how happy you got, because it just all blended together so nicely. And I really appreciate that. Notably, there were no significant humorous scenes surrounding the third ghost, the Ghost of Christmas Future. I guess technically the fifth, if you count Jacob and Robert Marley. But regardless, the Ghost of Christmas Future, he comes into screen and they literally take away the two funny guys, Gonzo and Rizzo, out of the equation. They're like, hey, we're gone, folks. See ya. And yes, Gonzo is playing Charles Dickens in this movie at that time. Okay, so Charles Dickens and Rizzo leave. So there's no more, I guess I learned the word Greek chorus to, hold our hand and help us laugh through these sad moments. You just get to experience all of the future's visions through this scary lens, and it makes it super dark and super sad. I remember as a kid watching those scenes with the Ghost of Christmas Future and being really sad, being really depressed, and just feeling for Scrooge as he's crying and begging this ghost that he can change and he can become better. And it makes the end of this film stand out, but it makes the true end, where Scrooge changes and becomes a good person, feel so much better, right? That juxtaposition again of the serious and dark with the lighthearted and happy. And so to see that change just feels so much more rewarding after we just went through 5-10 minutes of this very dark period of the Ghost of Christmas Future. And I absolutely love that they made this story decision for this movie to keep the Ghost of Christmas Future kind of separate and alone from the other two ghosts and from the rest of the movie. I think it works so well. And it's at this point of complimenting the plot and pacing of this film that I want to acknowledge that this film obviously has a fantastic foundation with which to build off of, and that is, of course, A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. That book came out over 175 years ago, and it's still relevant today. And I believe that that's because it had really good plot and pacing to begin with. I mean, it couldn't still be as popular if it didn't have that. And so this movie probably didn't have to do that much work to get the plot and pacing just right. However, we've all seen good books be poorly adapted to screen and have terrible movies and with which they were made off of, and that's really unfortunate. So there's absolutely a lot of credit to be given to the creators of The Muppet Christmas Carol to tell such a well-plotted film that is very fun-paced and keeps you entertained every step of the way. And that's what I love about The Muppet Christmas Carol. Because at the end of the day, I have seen this movie for Christmas virtually every year of my life, and it still holds up today. I still enjoy watching it, and I think a big part of that is because it's such a fun and entertaining movie to watch in terms of its plot and pacing. It just keeps you engaged in the film throughout the entire runtime. And mind you, this movie tells the entire story in under an hour and 30 minutes, which is super impressive when considering that most movies today feel like they have to be 2 hours or longer in order to get their message and their story across. Now, I don't mind a 2-hour movie if you're going to use all 2 hours, but there are plenty of movies that definitely could afford to be cut down a little bit. But this movie is not one of them. They use every scene excellently to progress the characters, to progress the story. And yes, some of those scenes are purely for humor and laughs, but I consider that a necessary part of this film because, as I talked about earlier, those moments help alleviate the stress and tension of the darker, serious, more serious moments of the film. And I love that about the movie. Now, I addressed the fact that this was an adaptation of a few moments earlier, and I just want to say that I have heard this is one of the best adaptations of A Christmas Carol ever put to screen. However, I have not read the book myself yet, and so therefore I do not feel qualified to speak on that. I will leave a link down below in my description of a YouTube video that breaks this down a bit, which I thought was pretty fun to watch and talks about how this was such a good adaptation. And, give that a watch. Maybe you'll enjoy it. Maybe you won't. I don't know. I don't care. The point is, I do want to acknowledge this is a very faithful adaptation. I mean, it's clear that a lot of Gonzo's lines are ripped straight from the book. They just have that nice old-timey quality to them when it comes to their word choice and sentence structure and stuff. But at the end of the day, I can't speak to whether this was a really good adaptation or not. All I can say is that it's a very compelling story to me right now, and that's what I love about it. Will I read A Christmas Carol sometime in the future? Absolutely, yes. And when I do, I'll absolutely do a video comparing the book to this movie and seeing how they stack up. I'm excited to do that someday in the future, but it's just not going to happen this Christmas and probably won't happen for a few Christmases, but we'll see how it goes. That'll be a video for another time. For now, let's get back to talking about why I love the Muppet Christmas Carol. Because the next thing I want to talk about is the music. I think the music for this film is absolutely phenomenal. I think it's better than most other Muppet movies. Music. I don't know. I haven't seen a whole lot of Muppet movies, and I don't remember them very much, so maybe I'd change my mind on this, but I think the music in this is really, really good, and I think the songwriters did a really good job making the lyrics and the music just do so well for each scene. I love One More Sleep Till Christmas. I love It Feels Like Christmas. I love When Love Is Gone. It's a really sad and somber song, but it works great. I love Marley and Marley. That's one is super upbeat and super catchy despite the dark undertones of these ghosts coming up from literally hell. It's great, and I think the music is something that is absolutely a shining spot of the Muppet Christmas Carol because, as I said before, and I'll foot stomp this, the music helps pick up the pace of the story every time it gets a bit slow, every time it gets a little bit boring. And as a kid and as an adult, I really appreciate that because it keeps me engaged in the film throughout. And I love the music for helping with the pacing and everything it does there. A couple little hidden details that I love surrounding the music are, first, the fact that Scrooge participates more in each song as his heart begins to change. At the start of the movie, he doesn't even acknowledge that people are singing about him as he walks the streets of London, and he kind of turns around at the last minute and says, "Bah humbug" to all the onlookers. Fantastic. And then, in the middle of the film, he sings along When Love Is Gone with Belle, and then he starts even dancing with the Ghost of Christmas Present when they sing It Feels Like Christmas, which is great. And then it all culminates in the end where he sings along, where he is the main vocalist, and he sings the song Thankful Heart with all the townspeople, which I absolutely love. And it just works so well for his character. They show his growth through his participation in the music, and it works really well for this film. Another hidden detail that I didn't realize till just now, the very last thing they sing, the finale, is called When Love Is Found, which is really sweet and tender as a juxtaposition to When Love Is Gone with Belle. That's really, really cool. The next thing I want to talk about is the comedy. I've talked about it a number of times, but I want to just kind of foot stomp that I think this movie is very funny. I think all the jokes are timeless and really enjoyable at any age of life and at any point. Despite the fact that this film is over 30 years old, I'm still laughing at virtually every single one of the jokes. And so that absolutely should be commended. Yes, nostalgia plays a big factor there, but I'll get to that at the end of the video. The thing I want to share is just my favorite joke from this movie is when the Marley Brothers are critiquing Fozziwig's speech and they end with, "It was short. I loved it." It is so funny, and it's a line I quote all the time because it just comes up in so many conversations. It's just, it's great. So I love the comedy of this film. I think the jokes are fantastic. But in talking about the comedy, I want to acknowledge the hilarious duo of the great Gonzo and Rizzo the Rat, playing Charles Dickens and himself, respectively, because they are hilarious. And throughout this entire film, they work as narrators or as a Greek chorus for us, the audience, to help move the plot along, to help us explain what each scene is, and they provide some of the best humor in the entire movie. And I think it was absolutely a stroke of genius to include them in here, because not only does it allow for some very funny moments to be had, but it also helps bring Charles Dickens' words to life. Like, Gonzo quotes verbatim many really good excerpts from the book that help set the scene, right? They help you know, okay, this is what's happening and this is what I should be looking for. And I love that because it, again, helps with that pacing and that plot of the movie, because now no scene just kind of hits you out of nowhere. You're ready and prepared for each scene of the movie. And I love that for the film. And lastly, I want to talk about Michael Caine's excellent performance of Ebenezer Scrooge. It is a well-known secret that he chose to play this role completely straight. He, at one point, called it, he wanted to play it as a psychopath, because he's the only human and he just pretends as if everyone else is human. But I think that was meant for more humor. Really, the other quote that he says is he wanted to play it with all of the gravitas of a Shakespearean actor, which I think absolutely comes across on screen. And I love it. And it works so well for this movie because it helps me as an audience member suspend my disbelief. Because he doesn't draw attention to the fact that these are Muppets. He just says, no, this is reality. These people are as real and as human as you or I. It helps me not draw attention to the fact that these are Muppets, and it helps me get sucked into the story so much better. And I absolutely love that about this film and about Michael Caine's performance specifically. But it's not just his on-screen acting with the other Muppets that I love. I also love all of his solo moments where we get to see the full characterization of Scrooge, whether it's him being sad over lost love, or being cruel at the beginning of the movie, or him crying and begging for a chance to change and to improve and to grow at the end with the Ghost of Christmas Future. I just love all of it. The whole spectrum of his performance is absolutely fantastic. Whether he's sad, whether he's happy, whether he's mean, whether he's nice. It's just fantastic. And I think Michael Caine deserves all the credit in the world for putting together such a fantastic performance in The Muppet Christmas Carol. Now, at the conclusion of this review, I want to talk about the big three things I always harp on: character, plot, and setting. And I think this movie knocks all of them out of the park. I already talked about Ebenezer Scrooge and Gonzo, Charles Dickens, and Rizzo the Rat. But also Bob Cratchit's fantastic. Tiny Tim is adorable and cute. Miss Piggy has some hilariously delivered lines. It just works. All the characters work really well. The plot I've harped on ad nauseum, and the setting I think is really good too. I really appreciate how drab and dull London looks at the start and how happy and joyous it becomes over time. Again, like the music, it becomes happier and lighter as Scrooge's heart changes and improves. And I love that about The Muppet Christmas Carol. Now, if you'll indulge me for a second, I'd like to bring a bit of religion in and say that I love the Christ-filled message of redemption that is key to this film. Scrooge is given a second chance at life to be a good man, and he truly changes, and I love how hopeful that is. If Scrooge can change for the better, then so can each of us, and I know that's true. I know it's possible, without the need of 3 ghostly visits, but through Christ. And to me, that's the true joy of Christmas, and this film helps remind me of that. Now, I recognize that not everyone will get that message from this film, and that's okay. I respect and uphold the freedom of religion. But this is an important aspect of the film to me, and that's what I like about The Muppet Christmas Carol. It's just one more layer that I love about the film. So, In conclusion, I love The Muppet Christmas Carol, if that wasn't obvious enough already. It is easily my favorite Christmas movie. It's up there in my top 10, maybe top 20 favorite movies of all time. It's got excellent plot, character, and setting, as I just talked about. But also the big thing and compliment I can give to The Muppet Christmas Carol is there's nothing I would change. I have no notes. There's no scene that weirds me out. There's no scene that feels unnecessary. Everything adds value to this film, and I love that about the movie. And it's just a mark of a good film right there. Now, I want to acknowledge, of course, there's a nostalgia factor. I have grown up watching this movie ever since I was a little kid. It reminds me of home, it reminds me of family, it reminds me of Christ and Christmas, and it reminds me of presents. And I love all of those things. They're amazing. But in my defense, my wife, who had never seen this movie before she met me, also loves the film. I showed it to her and she fell right in love with it, and it became part of our Christmas traditions. Yes, it was going to be something I watched every year with or without her approval, but I have her approval. She likes it. She thinks it's a really good way to bring in that Christmas spirit, and I love that about The Muppet Christmas Carol because whenever I watch it, it makes me think of Christmas. So with her seal of approval, I think I can confidently say that this is a fantastic movie, whether you have 20 plus years of nostalgia to back it up or not. And that's how I want to end this movie. It's just a fantastic Christmas movie. Love this. And yeah, that's my review of The Muppet Christmas Carol.